Hello, and welcome back to Beating a Dead Horse. As always, I'm your host, Sean McKinda.
And I'm your host, Jackson Keller.
And you know what? Last week, we promised you more sweet Predator content, and you know what? For once, we're actually delivering on what we promised the week before.
A truly monumentous occasion in Beating a Dead Horse history.
I would say check off your bingo sheets, but fuck, nobody had this on anything, so...
You know what? I just realized that we should stop making promises, because whenever we do, something catastrophic happens to me and we can't record. So we should just stop making promises altogether.
Well, next week, I promise we'll be back. But no, yeah, we saw the 2018 version of The Predator. We did not do the AVP movies, but don't worry, those are coming.
Oh, they're coming. Hot and fresh for you. Soon.
Yeah. Soon. I'm not soon. Sorry, existential horror just dawned on me. No, we watched 2018's Predator, and it was fine. It was very similar to the original Predator, kind of like my feelings going out of it, not so much content-wise. But it was fine. It was enjoyable for what it was. It wasn't good, but it was good enough. Yeah, I mean, it was a Predator movie, man. I don't know.
Well, my closest point of comparison, continuing with the theme of comparing Predator to Alien, even though aside from a forced crossover, they really have nothing to do with one another. I would say the movie that matches my feelings the most is the fourth entry of the Alien franchise, Alien Resurrection. In that, both movies are written by a writer known for their quippy, smarmy dialogue.
Wait. Are you saying that these were written by writers?
Let me finish my point. Yes, they were written by writers. Alien Resurrection by Joss Whedon, this movie by Shane Black, both known for being smug bastards in their dialogue, smarmy, quippy, whatever. And both movies are incredibly dumb. From the premise to the execution, it's all stupid. Arguably, both can be said to be a parody of the franchise that they are involved in. I got those vibes from this movie. And despite a lot of the wacky stuff that happens in them, I would also say that both are kind of bad, but crazy enough that they're still somewhat entertaining. And I wasn't really bored until the ending, the last 20 minutes or so. And other than that, I got a lot of feelings. This movie was not as well executed as the original Predator, I would say. There are still some good, memorable shots. There's one in particular, I think, at the beginning, where the Predator, cuts a dude in half and hangs him up, and then the Predator gets taken down, and, the blood covers him and reveals his hidden body. Stuff like that is pretty cool, and there's occasionally some inspired filmmaking in there, but certainly nothing as iconic as, Arnold slathering himself in mud and, setting all those wacky Home Alone traps. Just not as inspired, despite having some cool moments, and ultimately kind of a mess. Unless you're a really big Predator fan, or, you really enjoy schlock movies, I wouldn't particularly recommend it.
Yeah, no, I agree that there were definitely some really cool shots. I've got one in my mind that I don't want to talk about yet because it's a big spoiler, but it's gonna stick with me for a while just because I thought it was really fucking cool. It definitely fell apart at the end in a big way. Getting bored there makes a lot of sense because as frenetic as it still is, it just too much happens and you lose interest. It's the type of so much is happening, so little I care about type of situation. I think, as I said, I really enjoyed it just because I do think it was kind of a schlocky B slasher fest type of deal going on. Not particularly inspired. Enough of the jokes were, humorous enough that I got a couple chuckles out of me, but I definitely, it's not something that, like, if you're new to this series, you're gonna want to go out and see. Granted, I don't think I would really recommend Predator to anyone new to the series outside of like a couple of very specific situations. It's just not that interesting of a series. Full stop.
Yeah. Anyone who would enjoy something like Predator has probably seen it already, because it's such a specific flavor of 80s macho posturing that anyone who didn't have a background in that sort of thing probably doesn't care, meaning that new Predator fans are probably not being born.
Yeah. Although, I will say, I did have a couple of young kids in the fucking theater with me to watch the goddamn Predator.
That's true, so did I. Although, on the other hand, everyone else in the theater but me and those, like, 3 kids were all, like, trucker dads. So take that as you will.
Interesting. So, did anybody else in your theater laugh? That's my question.
No, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily a huge mark against the movie, because there weren't. I was at a Monday night showing by myself, I should mention. That also might be why I was reveling less in the schlockiness, because there wasn't that social element to it. But I went by myself. There were only like 7 other people in the theater, probably, and it wasn't a weekend. It wasn't peak viewing time, so I don't think that's necessarily the right crowd to really indulge in some like laughter at key moments.
See, I did see it. I actually saw it by myself as well, but I did see it at Saturday at 3. So like a relatively peak viewing time. It was like a hot day, a good time to go check it out. And basically I laughed at a couple parts, but let me tell you, those kids found the usage of a slang term for vagina to be the funniest goddamn thing anyone has ever said in the goddamn world. It was something else. So, you know what? We had people laughing, but it was at the vagina words. Guys, it's funny because they said the vagina words.
I can't be too harsh on them, because your sense of humor when you're a 14-year-old, particularly when you're a 14-year-old boy, isn't the most refined, certainly. So I'll let that slide. But that is maybe a mark against the movie. That's the only laughter.
I'm not really mad at the kids about it. Like, I get it. It's, what you're going to laugh at that age. But, A, the kid was probably like 8, not 14.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. B, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a knock. I will admit, like, the setup to the joke that I'm referring to, I chuckled at because it was kind of funny. I actually did laugh aloud a couple times just because, like, there was a couple of really good comedic timing beats behind it. But, yeah, for the most part, outside of those kids, my theater was silent. Like, there was a couple times, like, because they nailed the Shane Black kind of awkward pause to punchline thing. And a couple of them just really hit really well. But I don't think anybody else realized that it was supposed to be a joke. And so, like, I was just kind of like, ha ha. Never mind.
What? So there are some specific bits about the comedy that I do want to dive into after when we go into spoiler mode. But before we do, like, the other thing about this movie, like, to be fair to it, is that I'm not sure if part of why I was underwhelmed is more because of the movie, because Shane Black is talented at that kind of comedy, and I haven't seen too many of his movies, but I really enjoyed the ones that I have seen, and so I'm not sure if it's something that the movie is doing wrong specifically, or if I'm just generally pretty sick of the, like, quippy blockbuster that has emerged as, like, the dominant form of Hollywood storytelling. I don't know, but the humor, there were definitely some jokes that I laughed at, but overall the humor didn't really do it for me this time around.
Yeah, I mean, as I agree with you, and, like, the jokes that did hit were kind of few and far between. Like, as you said, I was never really bored. So, like, I don't think, like, the humor never I don't want to say the humor never worked against the movie, because we are going to talk about that. But, like, it at least kept you engaged. But I think that there was only a couple jokes that were actually laugh out loud funny. It's an uproarious laugh riot. Adam Sandler pixels.
I clapped.
But yeah, I mean, I guess with that, do you want to kind of slide into spoilers?
Yeah, we can slide into spoilers. I mean, do we want to elaborate on the joke issue, or should we actually talk about death like we're supposed to first?
Let's because we're already on the conversation of jokes. Let's kind of open up with that. Because I think we should kind of close on that, because like a lot of the scenes that I really like are death based.
Yeah.
And I think like there's some really interesting stuff that they do with it. But I do want to talk about how the humor is a weird juxtaposition with the fucking kind of themes of the movie. And
yes. Oh, there's definitely some contradictions in the intent of the writing versus the execution, I dare say.
And we're going to try and be tactful about this. I do need to put this out here because we're going to be touching on mental health issues. So, like, we're going to do our best to be as tactful as we possibly can. I apologize if we say something, out of line. It's not our intention to offend anyone in any way. Let us know. We'll try and be better about it. But it's all about mental health.
Yeah, content warning for some sexual assault stuff too, because I mean, you've all seen the controversy if you're listening to this podcast surrounding the movie. So, we are
like 10 minutes. We should be done with it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with that then.
yeah. Let's get the sexual assault stuff out of the way as quickly as we can.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
No, I'll let you take this one.
All right. So there's a lot of sex humor in this movie, in many forms. As Sean had mentioned, like, there were the children laughing at the vaginas, and so there are other jokes, like some of them are pretty innocuous, like when they're talking about the predator's DNA, how it has human DNA, and like Olivia Munn asks, like, all right, like, stop beating around the bush, you want to know if this thing like fucked a human. Like, that's funny, that's fine, that doesn't bring up any particular like red flags. But then you have other scenes involving Olivia Munn's character, who, of course, is the actress who brought the issue of Shane Black hiring the sex offender friend. And I just gotta say, this maybe speaks to how shitty of a person I am. But another really distracting thing in this movie was that because I didn't know that the scene with the sex offender was cut, I spent the whole movie playing Spot the Sex Offender. Like, I was scrutinizing everyone's face, being like, ooh, like, he looks kind of shifty, like, maybe it's him. And then I thought I would get my answer, because if I remember correctly, the part of the reason it was such a skeevy issue was that the scene in question was a sex scene. So I was waiting for it to happen to see if my guess was right. But of course it didn't happen, and then I looked at it and I'm like, oh, of course they cut it. Like, that would be very foolish of them not to do. So, I am a bad person. I was morbidly curious. And, the studio made the right call on that one.
Oh, yeah.
My own demented brain games notwithstanding, there's another joke in the text of the film, a lot of jokes, actually, that acknowledge how dangerous, let's say, the position that Olivia Munn's character would be, being surrounded by, like, 8 soldier dudes alone, like, sleeping in a bed in a hotel. There are a lot of jokes made about how, like, they don't want her to think that, like, they're trying to rape her, and then they acknowledge it, and they talk about it, and then she, like, fights back, but they're not doing that, so it's supposed to be funny. But it just, in general, even if there hadn't been that controversy, the scene would be a little uncomfortable after all the scandals.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it tried to play it as tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, we're aware of how this looks, but don't worry, it's not actually going that way, but we know, do you get it? But with the scandal around it, it just takes on a whole new light.
Yeah, especially because, like, part of her character arc is, like, there's the one guy who's constantly, like, hitting on her. He names the predator doggo. Oh, yeah, there are predator doggos in this movie.
Don't worry about it. We'll talk about that later. We'll get on to that
one. He names the predator doggo after her, and, like, he gives her the tinfoil unicorn. And, like, at the end, like, after he's dead, like, this is part of her character arc. She, like, puts the tinfoil unicorn in with all their other stuff as, like, a memorial, and is, like, weirdly, like, acknowledging his feelings. Yeah, it's
not good.
It's definitely, like, it's the sort of thing, like, that's part of the reason why, like, I was thinking about, like, the outside scandal issue so much, just because of, like, how much, like, uncomfortable tension there is between these characters. I'm like, oh, is it that guy? Like, was she
just does not drop the idea of sex in this movie.
No, it really doesn't. And yeah, it was really distracting, really pretty uncomfortable, and not good. Just not good.
The whole thing felt very strange, and, like, I was aware that the scene had been cut already, so I wasn't as caught up in looking for it. But, like, in hindsight, with the idea of looking for this scene, all the sex jokes that were made throughout just really compound into a very uncomfortable picture of the movie. Especially because, and I'm going to tie this right into the second point of why the humor doesn't work, which is a lot of the sex jokes come from the mentally unstable individuals. I don't know a better term for this. I'm so sorry. I literally just saw Justin McElroy trying to find a good way of putting it in after an episode of Sawbones. So I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. It's a number of soldiers who have various forms of PTSD manifesting in various ways. I guess is probably the cleanest way of putting it, but it's hard to explain without sounding terrible. So they're the ones making the jokes a lot, and a lot of it comes from a gentleman who has Tourette's, and, like, the idea that he can't control his actions, and so, like, there's a weird fact that we're laughing at that while there's this whole sexual assault scandal going on, and at the same time, the bigger issue between the idea of these gentlemen and the theme of the movie is the protagonist, Quinn McKenna's kid, is on the autism spectrum. And his, like, the portrayal of him is pretty solid. Like, he's very autonomous. He's man, this is really tricky, and I'm trying to figure out the best way of putting this. I'm so sorry. It's a very good portrayal of an autistic child. He's portrayed in a very solid light. Like, a whole theme of the movie is that, like, being on the spectrum is the next step in human evolution, which is, it's a cool idea. It's a cool, theme for the movie. It's great that this kid's portrayed in such a great light. But the entire time, too, we're laughing at these PTSD-addled soldiers because they're going through their own stuff at the same time, and it just, like, conflicts with itself the entire time.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of death at the end, all the PTSD soldiers are killed and get, like, a heroic moment, like they're supposed to. So you can see how, like, the text of the movie is supposed to reveal that, like, oh, these guys are noble, good soldiers at their core, and, like, their disabilities don't define them, and how, like, they're good guys and all that stuff. But, like, after spending the whole movie just, like, shitting on them for their, like, general social incompetence and, like, pointing and being supposed to point and laugh at them, it feels really half-hearted. And also, like, some of their death scenes are so over the top. Like, I'm thinking of that one of, like, the guy impaled by the tree and the other guy, I think the Tourette's guy, dead on the ground, and how there's... Oh, yeah, you're right, it is flipped. Yeah, so, there's this wide shot of, like, them looking, their dead bodies, like, looking at each other, like, in a diagonal from the tree to the ground, and it feels so corny and, like, over the top that, like...
I really liked it. I'm not gonna lie.
Did you?
Liked that scene. That was the scene that I was talking about that I really genuinely liked.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm interested to hear your take on it then. But yeah, it felt... I just maybe after the rest of the movie, it felt a little insincere to me.
I mean, that might be. I'm just gonna derail and talk about that for a hot second.
Sure.
Just because we're on it, we'll come back to the rest of the themes.
Yeah.
But no, that scene, I think you are right in that, like, in the rest of the context of the movie, it's a little strange. But I think it's just, like, such a really cool, well designed, well laid out scene that I just kind of got swept up of, like, oh, this is really fucking well shot, well executed. Neither of those were intentional puns. I'm so sorry. Like, the basic idea of it is the Predator throws the gentleman with Tourette's, Baxley, I believe is his name, and he gets impaled on a tree branch, probably like 20 feet in the air. And then Keegan-Michael Key's character, Coyle, goes after the Predator because they're friends despite having some negative history with each other. And he gets basically disemboweled and chucked across from him at a diagonal. The shot, they're like looking at each other like, all right, I guess this is it. This is the end. This is going to be a really painful death. Why don't we just kill each other? And so, like, we get this really wide shot at a faint Dutch angle as they pull their guns out at each other. And, like, the shot is just really, really cool. It's the type of thing where you don't really see that much empty space, especially in, like, big budget blockbusters like this. So, like, it really is it takes you back for a second. I think it works really well in that moment.
I do agree. I do like the composition of that shot as a visual. But again, just after the context of the whole movie, I think insincere is the best way that, like, I felt like the scene was playing out in terms of being placed in the rest of the movie. But yes, I do agree that, like, as a composition, it was one of the more memorable moments for sure.
Yeah. And that was my big defense of the movie, is that scene. It's just that I thought it was, like, just beautifully fucking done. Like, that's Shane Black distilled right there.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, thinking about it, like, so many of, like, the mental health portrayals in this are really, like, complicated and compounded by how the deaths occur and when they occur. Because the one that's most prominent to me, the character who otherwise we're not really supposed to laugh at, the kid who's, the fact that he's on the spectrum is what allows him to, like, figure out the Predator technology, and he ends up getting a job, and it's cool and all that. But there's a scene early on where, or like halfway through the movie, where he puts on the Predator mask as, like, a Halloween costume, because earlier he expressed that he didn't want people to know that it was him so he wouldn't get bullied anymore. I like this scene as a setup. It's full attention in terms of, like, is the Predator gonna come after him in this, like, Halloween trick-or-treat scene, which the movie doesn't really capitalize on, and I was disappointed by that. And, you know, there's the possibility of him, like, activating one of the powers, which is what ultimately happens when some, like, dickhead throws something at him when he tries to trick-or-treat in front of this, like, shitty old house, and then the Predator mask auto-responds by blowing the house up. And this kid who earlier in the movie was, like, completely shut down by a fire alarm going off, ends up, like, taking off the mask and, like, staring at his bullies and, like, sticking his tongue out at them. And it seems completely sociopathic in context, considering, like, that guy just fucking died in the most explosive way possible. And I know that, like, part of the whole deal with being on the autism spectrum is that you have more difficulty, like, with social interactions, but surely surely they would be freaked the fuck out and like panicking if like they had accidentally caused that. And this kid, again in particular, who has a history of like being frightened by loud explosive things, the fact that he just sort of walks it off makes it just reminds me of how much everyone in this movie, including the characters who don't, supposedly have some sort of disability or something, all act completely sociopathic. Like Olivia Munn's character, I don't know what her deal is. Like she's like a scientist lady who can shoot guns. Okay, cool. But also like,
yeah, I don't know why she can shoot guns. I want to take a break on that one. I'm not going to just, okay, cool, hand wave that one away, because that's weird. Like, I feel like there's a backstory that got cut from that.
I agree. It is weird, but that's the kind of thing that can be like there are a lot of movies that'll just like offhand say like, oh, I went to the shooting range with a relative or something. Like
That's everything that you include in that. Like,
yeah,
somebody who's clearly just a scientist. She was, a professor at a college and everything like that. Like, I have no problem with this woman being able to pick up a gun and shoot it, but give me some context behind it.
Yeah,
it's like fucking getting Ted Mosby from goddamn How I Met Your Mother, a cultural touchstone in the year of 2018, might I say, to fucking just pick up a bazooka and blow up Alien or some shit.
Okay. All right. So I agree. But that issue for me is just a little bit eclipsed by
it's small.
Yeah, no, it's just eclipsed by the fact that she is so obsessed with like getting samples and like harvesting predator organs and is just like clearly an unstable like mad scientist, like Rick Sanchez level. And there's no reason for it. We don't know why she's like this. She just is. And that's what makes everyone feel like a cartoon character to me. Like, it's not just her.
I think part of it, though, too, is admittedly, and this kind of goes against what I was literally just shouting about Ted Mosby for, is, like, I think everyone is kind of supposed to feel like a cartoon character, because it is a very 80s stylized movie, and, like, that is a super 80s stylized trope. Like, I could totally see Egon doing that in the original Ghostbusters, just running around picking up samples as things are falling apart around him type of deal. So I think it's just a matter of how the character is played for the 80s-ish. Wow, that was a terrible sentence, but you know what? You get what I'm going for.
No, I do. And to an extent, I agree. It's because the movie is clearly, it's like a homage. I would go as far as to call it a parody. Like, it's more explicitly comedic than the other Predator movies.
It's more aware of what the Predator movies are. Yeah,
and that's cool. And so even though like she's the example that jumped out most to me, but I think part of the reason that it came across as weirder is because that everyone else's cartoon character traits are because of some sort of disability, which is as the kids say, #P problematic.
Which, goes back to the way of the first Predator. It's just a continued... No, fuck you. It's genuinely problematic. Like, it's not 1980s, the first 5 minutes problematic. It's 2018. Grow the fuck up.
Yeah, it's 2018, and like, whereas the first Predator is problematic, at least it's consistent in its problematicness, and that there's the whole like it's about machismo and being like an aggrandizing like honorable warrior dude. This is trying to say one thing and then doing another, and the fact that it's so explicitly like a parody but also tries to have this serious heartfelt message, especially after treating that serious heartfelt message with such abandon throughout the rest of the movie. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it's strange. It's the themes of it definitely conflict the entire way throughout. The pacing is strange in parts. The editing is a nightmare in the end.
Oh my god, yeah. Even earlier in the movie, I was getting a little like, whoa, what's going on in the choreography?
See, like in the earlier on, I definitely agree with you, but I was a little bit more okay with hand waving that away, just because full explanation. I had just seen Mandy like an hour beforehand, which is just a movie that you basically sit back and let it take you for a ride. And considering I heard Predator wasn't very good, and also a movie that you just gotta sit back and let it take you for a ride, I wasn't as concerned about it. I'm like, all right, whatever. It's weird, but I'm not super worried. I'm fine with it. It wasn't until the end, which I had already heard was the bad part of the movie, where I got more caught up in like, what the fuck is even happening right now? There's one scene in particular that I'm thinking of, like the death of the. Oh yeah, there's a bigger, badder predator. If you haven't seen this movie, I guess let me give you a quick plot synopsis now that we're 20 minutes in. If you haven't seen this, you don't need the synopsis for what we talked about beforehand. But Predator is on Earth, like baby Predator from the first one, and he's got goods for Earth to try and help us save ourselves. We find that about halfway through. There's a bigger, badder Predator that's a hybrid of everything else. Oh my god, it is just fucking Alien 4. That is coming after the young Predator. So, like, bigger, worse Predator, and he brought his dogs, and
he brought his dogs.
That's basically what it fucking is. And so like the big Predator kills the baby Predator pretty quickly, but like a dog befriends Olivia Munn's character after one of the other characters lobotomize it or something. Oh my god, I'm fucking Christ. So
and then Ripley gives birth to the Predator human hybrid.
Yeah, it's oh my god. What I'm trying to get at here though is at one point the dog, which had been locked up in a truck, escapes, comes after Olivia Munn, who was like 80 miles away at this point, because like they're on a fucking ship trying to leave Earth, and it crashed back to Earth, but Olivia Munn was on the ground in the beginning, and then all of a sudden she's there with a grenade and the Predadog, and like she throws a grenade to the main character, who loads it in like a crossbow that he has all of a sudden, launches it at the Predator explodes, the Predator dog dies somewhere in there, and all of this occurs in probably 30 seconds. Like, my explanation of that sounds delirious. It was delirious in the movie. We joke about being intentionally, like, making no sense. In this case, that was as clear as I could make what I fucking just explained. It made no sense.
Here was another thing that confused me. And, this might have been the fault of the theater, because I always dread when I go to my little small town theater that most of the theaters are nice enough, but ironically enough, the big like IMAX screen one, the audio quality is always so bad. It's always too loud. The mixing is terrible. I can never understand the dialogue when I see a movie that's playing on that screen. So this might have been my fault, or the theater's fault. But so Sean, can you explain to me why the like government and McKenna's little squad were fighting at the end if they wanted the same thing?
What are we talking about? Before the Predator tells them that he's gonna hunt them?
Yes, like they're both going after what turns out to be the anti-Predator suit, and also like they want the tool to save us. But like, is McKenna just like such a hardcore libertarian that he doesn't want the government to have it? Like I didn't understand why they were still in conflict at that point.
It was because Sterling K. Brown's character Traeger had kidnapped his son. So like the Quinn was not going after the Predator ship at that point. He was trying to recover his kid.
Oh yeah, okay. I guess I was wondering like. I guess then what I was wondering, because then that backs up even further to that scene. They were like trying to torture the information out of them. But like, and so Traeger was talking to Olivia Munn, and that's when they figured out That's when, like, she put together that it was an anti-predator weapon. After he had, like, told her that of his own will, why did they need to torture them? And couldn't they have just cooperated to get this mutually beneficial anti-predator weapon and then not have to kidnap his son?
You see, Traeger is a stand-in for Carl Weathers' character, and the government has to be evil.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
I mean, that is legitimately the only explanation I had for most of these actions. Is like it was trying to. I mean, it is a parody of sorts of the first one. So like they're just like, hey, you know, make this character evil because he was in the first one, but kind of tongue in cheek it. And that was basically how the entire movie was. There were just echoes of the first one all over the place, but like self-aware in that. Yeah, we know what we're doing kind of way.
Oh, that is the most tiresome shit. This movie was a lot like Terminator Genesis too, in that it was bad and had a lot of stupid like in-universe memes and tried to be more like a parody, but also kind of serious, and it ends up being a complete mess. Every time when they said like get to the chopper with the motorcycles.
Whoa, choppers.
Get to the choppers. Oh, excuse me.
Because there's an S.
It's like Alien and Aliens. Yeah, I never rolled my eyes so hard. I thought they were gonna fall out of my fucking face.
That was one of those moments where I both kind of chuckled at it, but also like hated myself for laughing at it.
Yeah,
because it was just clever enough that I'm like, ha, God, I can't believe I just laughed.
If they had done it just once, I would be able to get behind that. But every single like meme from the original was referenced here, and it made me so unreasonably mad.
It was also, and this is just something that I just kind of realized, it was way less gory than the original.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the Disney Predator to me. Like a lot of quips. Kind of sanitized, but then also weirdly not, because like if it were sanitized, then like a lot of the weird like problematic shit wouldn't be there. I guess
it lost its gore edge but gained its problematic edge.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I'd rather have a gore than a problematic movie, let's be honest.
I mean, yeah. Wouldn't we all?
Yeah, less problems, more gore.
I mean, there were some cool, like that shot I mentioned earlier of like the Predator getting drizzled in blood. There was some cool stuff, but overall, it was definitely lacking in the gore department.
Yeah, it was strange. I don't know. The more I think about it, like there's just like weird little threads that I just kind of keep coming back to, and I forgot about. I'm like, wait. Because, like, at one point he swallows an invisible ball why didn't he ship the invisible ball, too? Why did he need to swallow that?
Because he wanted it, because he's a sniper, but if he's going rogue against the government, then...
Oh, also, it's for the Mission Impossible tie-in.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Also, how did he get that across international borders with the U.S. postal system? And nobody picking up on the fact that it's this alien technology.
I mean, fuck. I was saying, maybe it just looks like a costume or something like that, but I don't know, man.
I would be more willing to accept it again if it like didn't have to cross international lines.
And he didn't have to cross international lines somehow. How did he get back?
I guess I guess the implication is that the government took him back. Fuck, we're getting into like CinemaSins territory here, and I felt like there was something else I wanted to say about this fucking movie, but now I can't remember what it was. Do you have anything else?
This movie's fucking dumb.
This movie is fucking dumb. Oh, I'm kicking myself for forgetting, but I think it's gone. I think we'll just never know.
All right, the mystery continues. So yeah, I guess we want to wrap it up here then?
Yeah, we can wrap it up here. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't particularly recommend it unless you're a Predator fan. If you are, I mean, I don't even know if you're a Predator fan, like, you might find the fact that it's devolved so much into self-parody, you might hate it anyway. Just keep that in mind, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know a couple people who've seen like the originals that would probably enjoy this one still, And like, I'm not gonna fault anybody for that. As I said, I enjoyed it well enough. I thought it was a fun way to kill 2 hours. I thought it falls very much in line with the original Predator movie. But once again, I'm not gonna go recommend these to people at this point. Like, if you're already watching it, great. If you're not, I'm not gonna be like, dude, you gotta go watch the Predator, man.
I remembered what my thing I wanted to say was.
Plot twist. What do you got?
Plot twist. Okay. So at the end, when they were building it up so dramatically, like this anti-predator tool, and it was this big pod that was like people predator size, and they made such a big deal about all this like genetic encoding and stuff. Did you think it was gonna be a fucking xenomorph?
You know what? I had no idea what the fuck I was expecting it to be.
Because when they said,
I think we just had AVP on the brain, I will say.
No, I mean, no, definitely true. But like, seeing as how like schlock it is, and how like they're and considering that now like shared universes are big business, like I thought that's how they were gonna do it, and the Predator would be like a soft reboot of AVP. And at first, I was mad. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they're gonna fucking do this. Like, I think this is what's happening. And then after a second, I'm like, wait a minute. This is already the dumbest shit imaginable. I want this to be a xenomorph. And then it wasn't. It was the equally silly anti-predator Tony Stark suit, which was satisfying.
So apparently, I don't know if you read this, but the original ending for this was way different.
Oh, give it to me.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what would have happened to the fucking anti-predator weapon or something, but apparently at the end here, I'm going to read directly from the Birth Movies Death article. So shout out to Scott Wampler, a guy who I've referenced many times on this podcast at this point.
Notice me, Scott Senpai.
Yeah, he's great. In Decker, fuck me.
Sorry.
I'm not realized really what sorry. You said. Like, I fucking just glazed over it at first, and then it hit me. I'm like,
just
God.
Accepted it. He just rolled with it.
Yeah. So, to quote Scott Wampler, in Decker and Black's original screenplay, however, this scene isn't there. Instead, McKenna, his son, Rory, and Casey Brackett all have just survived the final fight of the Super Predator, referred to as the upgrade in the script, when a helicopter lands. Out climbs Dutch Schaefer, Arnold Schwarzenegger, his face haunted, etched by pain. Dutch tells the trio to come with him, and when Rory asks, me too, the franchise's second most iconic badass smiles and said, especially you. Cut to black. I don't know what to make of that scene at all.
I actually did hear about this, but I didn't realize it was the ending. I heard that Arnold turned it down because Dutch wasn't the star, and he didn't want to waste his time.
Yeah, he wanted a bigger role is what I'm reading too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would have made the Terminator Genesis comparisons only ever stronger.
Oh my god, you're right.
Yeah.
No, it's a weird change. Like, does that mean that like this whole fucking... What was the extra material? Was that just added in post at some point then? Because like I feel like this end changes the entire fucking movie.
It really does. I don't know. Fuck.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, but here we are with the fucking Iron Man suit. Shane Black returns to direct Iron Man 4, Iron Man versus the Predator.
I would be so there for that.
Oh my god, right though?
Oh, holy shit. There was a comic back in the day. Apparently it was Superman versus Batman versus Aliens versus Predator, where Superman and Batman land on a kryptonite planet full of xenomorphs where predators are hunting them.
I was gonna say, there's another comic too called Archie versus Predator.
I like completely unrelated to anything. I just love once you discover your first weird Archie crossover. Like I think the first one I heard of was Archie meets the Punisher.
Yes,
like, you disappear down a rabbit hole of
There's
how
so
many fucking batshit things Archie has been crossed over with. Archie of all things.
You know, the fucking redhead freckle man without a personality. He fucking fights the Predator.
Oh my god.
All right, fuck it. Let's fucking wrap this shit up.
Let's get out of here.
I've been Sean McKinda. You can find me on Twitter at Sean_McKinda. You can also find my website, isortof, that's isortof.com. I got a bunch of stuff up there. It's basically where I'm experimenting with how I want to talk about film, because I definitely want to talk about film. So go check that out. Also, you can find my Twitch stream over there. I play video games a lot. I'm speedrunning right now, so if you're interested in that, it's a good way to check that out. What do you got, Jackson?
I'm Jackson J. Keller. That's my Twitter handle. And also my name and middle initial. I'm not on Twitter much anymore, so I'll just share this with you, that I just realized that as of the Fox acquisition, Disney owns the Xenomorph and the Alien franchise, and that makes me very sad, and I'm just fully grasping the implications of this.
Oh my god, you can bring back the extraterrestrial ride in Disney World.
I mean, you can. And so part of me... So this is the complication, right? With all this fucking Disney shit. Is that Disney movies are such, like... It's such a, like, big corporate nightmare. All the movies they make are the fucking same now. Everything's the same sanitized Disney formula, from Marvel to Star Wars to their animated features. And it sucks that the Hollywood monopoly has just gotten worse, and they've acquired the rights to all this shit. And on the other hand, the stupid, dumb nerd fanboy inside of me wants a non-canon spin-off movie of Star Wars where Jedis fight aliens.
Oh my god, my eyes widened as you were saying that. Holy shit, the implications.
Right? So, it's very, I like, it's bad for society, but I will be the happiest, like, child. Like, my inner child will come back to life even if it's just, like, a comic or a video game, if Jedis versus aliens was a thing.
I mean, until you get to it, and you're just disappointed and hate everything again.
They would have to, considering that's such a batfuck stupid premise in the first place, they would have to try pretty hard to extinguish my enthusiasm for the idea.
I mean, you just fucking get Aliens Colonial Marines, except it's Aliens Jedi Knights.
See, but that already inherently sounds better than Aliens Colonial Marines.
Oh my god, if you want to tell us why we're dumb and wrong, you can find the podcast at BADH_cast on Twitter. As always, thanks to Loads of the Highway for the use of our theme song. It is Suicide Alternate Take off the album High Octane Low Expectations. And shout out to 25 Years Later Site.com for putting up with our nonsense and keeping us hosted there. You guys are brave, that's all I can say. I got a bunch of really cool stuff, though. A bunch of really smart people writing really smart articles about David Lynch and a bunch of other cult movies, TV shows, and other stuff. Go check them out, please. They're awesome people.
I like to imagine that every contributor at 25 Years Later is, like, gathered around a table in the basement of, like, some shady bar, and they're, like, plotting the best way to assassinate us when they realize the great mistake they've made by allowing us on their site.
When they were just going to go and look and we're just not there anymore. And they're just like, hey, what happened? Oh, you know what? We don't allow podcasts on the site anymore. Sorry, but you guys have podcasts? Nope. It's gone. I don't know what happened. It's just gone.
Only written content for us.
It's just, yeah, I don't know what happened. Next week, we're going to be talking about the 2010 True Grit remake because we have another guest episode coming up. So tune in for that one. That should be really exciting. And bye.
Don't you go into the ground. Don't you go